as soon as we see that the recording has begun. There we go. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. This is Commissioner Scar. Today is Tuesday, February 21st, 2023, and we'll call this meeting to order at 8 a.m. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to mute their phone. You can do this by pressing *6. Please unmute yourself when called to speak. Again, pressing *6. It is very important for all others to remain muted. Thank you. All right, well, welcome everyone. We're pleased to be back after a week off, and we will start with the Board of Commissioners roll call. Commissioner Bell, are you with us today?
Good morning, I'm here.
Good morning. And Commissioner Yamamoto?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Okay, well, I did hear from Eric at Adventist Health, and he is out of the area and not going to be with us today. I did a quick scan of phone numbers. I did not see the Coastal Caucus, but as always, I'm going to pause and just, if anyone from a Coastal Caucus is with us, please unmute and let us know that. Okay, hearing no one, we'll keep trucking along. That puts us at Tillamook County Community Health Center. Do we have Ed Colson or Marlene Putman with us today? Okay, going to be a quick call today. I do know that Gail from the Halem Bay Health Center and Pharmacy is not able to be with us. She let me know that, so we would jump right on to Tillamook Family Counseling Center. Frank, are you with us this morning? Goodness, we take a week off and the world moves on without us, so totally understand. Lots of busy folks. All right, how about the sheriff this morning? Okay, continuing down my list, how about emergency management? Randy, are you with us today?
Wow.
Goodness gracious. How quickly we change our habits.
This is kind of like the Twilight Zone.
I know, right? I realize some of these folks may be used to not being first, and they may pop on a little bit later in the call, so I will keep my eyes out for that. But for now, we're going to jump right into the Board of County Commissioners. Commissioner Yamamoto, would you like to lead us off this morning?
Well, it seems like I've got lots of time, don't I?
Please don't feel that you need to take it all.
And I won't. I promise I won't. So yeah, there's been a lot going on. I know we did not get to meet last Tuesday morning, because all three commissioners were in Washington, D.C. for the NACO, the National Association of Counties legislative meeting. And that was a great meeting. We got a lot done. We actually got to hear from the President of the United States, who addressed us in person, which was wonderful, along with Janet Yellen and just a lot of other people. It was a great conference overall. The highlight for me was probably our meetings on the Hill that we had with Senator Wyden and Senator Merkley. I mean, we really did get a lot accomplished there. I thought it was great. We found out some things that are going to affect Oregon, and some misinformation that's been going around. First of all, when it comes to broadband. So as everyone knows, I am the commissioner representative on OBAC, the Oregon Broadband Advisory Council, and that is an advisory council to Business Oregon. And Business Oregon is going to be the entity that is going to get all this money when it hits from the federal government and distribute it within the state of Oregon. So the way this is looking at, every state in the union is eligible for a minimum of $100 million. Which is a lot of money. But technically, Oregon is eligible for up to $1 billion, which is a lot more money. But all of this is based on the rules and regulations that each state comes up with, which, again, we're an advisory committee to Business Oregon, and we're helping Business Oregon develop the rules and regs, especially the mapping. The amount of money that each state can be eligible for is to a large extent based on the mapping that we do. Being on OBAC for quite a few years, probably, 6 years maybe, we always knew that the mapping from the federal government was not correct. And we've been complaining about that for years. So as the federal government was getting ready to release all this money, and again, we're talking like $68 billion in this first round, which is a lot of money, we started looking at the maps. And so we had an opportunity to challenge the maps and actually update the maps. And this was back in October at the Oregon Telecommunications Conference in Ashland. I approached Business Oregon and told them, hey, we need to make sure our maps are accurate. This is going to be how we're going to get the money. So I recommended to Business Oregon at that point that we do some marketing. Make sure every Oregonian knows that they can go to these maps and look at the maps down to their neighborhood, their block, and see if what's on the maps really corresponds with what's available price-wise and speed-wise, etc., in their neighborhood. And if they would do that and they found that, no, the maps aren't accurate, they could challenge. Well, I got blown off from Business Oregon, and they didn't think that was a good use of their money. But now that the updated maps were due on the 15th of January, and guess what? The maps are still wrong to a large extent. They're better than they were, but still wrong. So one of the issues I talked about with Senator Wyden was the fact that our maps are wrong, and we're being told by Business Oregon that there's nothing we can do about the maps now. They are what they are, and there's nothing we can do. When I told that to Senator Wyden, he just leaned back in his chair and he kind of chuckled, and he said, "Dave, if he says, I know that the maps are still wrong, especially in Oregon." So he said, "I don't care what you're being told. You need to challenge the maps, and you have until June 30th to challenge the maps." So I had a meeting last week actually with Business Oregon, and I don't know why I was invited to this meeting, but this was for Southern Oregon and their broadband, although Commissioner Willie from Washington County was also on the call, so that was interesting. So I told Business Oregon exactly what Senator Wyden told me. And they kind of hemmed and hawed a little bit, but they did agree with me that, yeah, they've been in conversation with Merkley and Wyden, and challenging the maps is important. Currently, with the maps that are in place, Oregon is eligible for maybe up to $500 million, $500 million. But that means we could be leaving up to another $500 million on the table if we don't get these maps updated. So they do agree with me now that we need to do something, and yes, they know that even though they've been saying that the maps are done, a done deal. So this is something we need to continue to work on, and I am hoping Business Oregon takes me up on my plea to do some marketing to make sure that people understand that this is really important stuff, and they need to look at the maps. So that will be ongoing. One other thing I want to talk about very briefly is the buyout. So you've been hearing me talk about the buyout for years now, and just end of last year, we put a letter out to all 36 Oregon counties asking them to weigh in with us on the buyout. At that point, Congressman DeFazio was retiring, but he said, "Dave, I'd be more than happy to put another pause in the omnibus appropriations bill in December. But I need some help. I need the rest of the Oregon delegation to weigh in with me." That's why we did the letter. We got probably 29 or 30 of the 36 counties to sign on to that letter, and so all of the federal delegation is now aware of the buyout, and they supported this. So DeFazio did put, I believe it was a 3-year pause in the omnibus appropriations bill in December. However, it was on the very last day before they voted on the omnibus appropriations bill that provision, that 3-year pause on the buy-up was taken out, which was very sad. If Congressman DeFazio hadn't been retiring, I'm pretty sure he would have had the horsepower to make sure that the 3-year pause stayed in the omnibus appropriations bill. As it was, since he was retiring and didn't have the horsepower that he's had throughout his career, that did get taken out. At this point in time, we are not dead. I've talked to both Senator Wyden and Senator Merkley on the buy-up, gave them some new talking points that we have, and we're moving forward with this. It's interesting. Senator Wyden's office asked me, they said, well, we need some R's to weigh in on this. So there's a plan in place that we're going to have one of our congressmen, Congressman Bentz. He is aware of the buy-up. He understands this is going to have a disastrous effect on the state of Oregon, in many of his eastern Oregon counties even. So I think we've got at least one R that we can offer to really work this in the legislature. So we're not dead just quite yet. One other thing I want to talk about, and I'm sorry if I'm taking up too much time. You can just give me the hook if I'm talking too much. Was at the Pacific City Woods Citizens Advisory Committee meeting on Saturday morning, and I talked about the Board of Forestry. This is just horrible. A lot of this happened while I was in D.C., but the Board of Forestry called a special meeting, which happened Wednesday afternoon, and it was a virtual-only meeting with all 7 Board of Forestry members in different, wherever they live in the state of Oregon. There was no verbal public comment allowed. This is probably one of the most important meetings that the Board of Forestry had. They took it off the March 8th meeting because they knew it was going to be a meeting that was just going to be taken up with lots of public comment. So they had a special emergency board meeting, virtual, on Wednesday afternoon from 4 to 6, and talk about, again, really important conversation. Talk about the lack of transparency in doing things behind closed doors. The way they did this was they just had a brief conversation. Chair Kelly was doing most of the talking early on in this meeting, and he said publicly, he said, well, I think there may be a commissioner, a Board of Forestry member, that is going to propose a motion. And he said, I would ask you to do this. If you are considering proposing a motion, before you propose the motion, I would ask that you have a conversation with this board about what exactly you are going to be proposing in your motion. Make sure everyone understands it, all the Board of Forestry members, and then we're going to go into executive session. I'm not sure that's even legal. So Joe Justice had a conversation virtually with the other Board of Forestry members and the public that were watching about what his proposal would be. And his proposal would be that the basic 2 tenets of this HCP, the Habitat Conservation Plan, when they started this work, one was indeed conservation of endangered species. The other was adequate funding for the department and the counties and their special districts to make sure that those were the 2 basic tenets of the HCP when they started. So harvest level, and I know I'm going along here, harvest levels started out at 250 to 265 million board feet annually, and then they went down to 225 million board feet annually. And now the current numbers that they're using are 165 to 182 million board feet annually. Depending on which numbers you're comparing, if you compare to the most recent numbers of 225 million board feet, that's a 24% decrease in timber harvest. If you compare it to the earlier number of basically 250 million board feet, that's about a 32% decrease in timber harvest. And you have to understand that is going to just whack counties and special districts in the trust counties, as well as taking a big hit on the Department of Forestry. You have to understand that the Department of Forestry gets 36% of all the timber revenue that's cut in the trust counties. So I'm asking them how they're going to handle a 30% cut, and they really don't know. Although I know what their plan is. Their plan is to go to the legislature with their hands out. So this is and at the Board of Forestry meeting, after they came back out of executive session, they did vote on Board of Forestry member Joe Justice's motion. It failed 4-3. So there's all sorts of things going on here. We need to keep an eye open. The legislature is in session. The most dangerous time in the state of Oregon is when the legislature is in session. They're talking about, and all, I don't have time today, but they're talking about decoupling state forest lands. They're talking about all kinds of things. So anyway, I'm sorry to take up so much time, but with that, Madam Chair, I will turn this back over to you. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Commissioner. It was a good day to run long. So we'll go ahead and go to Commissioner Bell, and then I'll circle back and see who may have joined us. So Commissioner Bell, go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you.
Good morning.
Well, I wanted to mention, hi. It's funny. It feels like we're in a little bit of a vacuum, just the three of us here. I wanted to mention the NACO conference also. It was last week, as Commissioner Yamamoto said, all three of us were at the NACO conference in Washington, D.C., and I wanted to talk about that for a minute because it was my first time ever in Washington, D.C., which I'm kind of embarrassed to admit. And it was just fabulous. It was such a good experience, and I just want to tell the community that. Oh, somebody's unmuted. I just wanted to tell the community that and encourage people to think about going to Washington D.C. because it's a beautiful city, and the architecture is outstanding. It's clean and pretty and walkable. But the really amazing thing was all of the iconic places in Washington, D.C., as our nation's capital, obviously, all the places that we've seen a million times on TV and in books are so moving in person. It's so very moving to be in our nation's capital. And I'm embarrassed to admit that I'm this age, and it was my first time, but it won't be my last time. I look forward to going back and really spending some time exploring American history in Washington. It's great. And also, the conference itself was outstanding. We learned a lot about all kinds of things, as Commissioner Yamamoto said, but including, we learned a lot about the Infrastructure Act and money that will be available in the coming years and how we might access that. So that's really important because there's a lot of federal money that will be available to communities, and we needed to know more about how to line up to get that. So that's very important. It was thrilling to me to hear from President Biden. President Biden came and talked to us, talked to county commissioners from all over the country. He shared with us some things about his early career in politics, and that in his early career he was an elected county official, and so that was really interesting to hear from him. And he talked about how he remembered what it was like to be a county official, and that is part of the reason that when the American Rescue Plan Act funds came out, some of those funds came directly to counties, and he said that happened specifically because he remembered when he was a county official that when funds come from the federal government to the state and they're supposed to trickle down to counties, not all counties get them, which was also the experience with the CARES funds. The CARES funds, the first batch of funds, didn't get to all counties, so President Biden wanted to make sure that the ARPA funds did. And it was inspiring to hear him talk. He talked to us for 30 minutes, and it was very interesting. And encouraging. I came away heartened that there's a plan and that there are great people working on the plan. Pete Buttigieg came and talked to us as Secretary of Transportation. That was very interesting to me. Man, that guy has a hard job, especially right now with the train derailment, etc. And but he talked about the Infrastructure Act, and it was very inspiring. And we came back with a lot of good ideas about things work that we can carry forward for Tillamook County. And I also wanted to mention that when last week, I think on Thursday, it might have been on Wednesday, I went to ODOT open house. ODOT had an open house out at the Port of Tillamook Bay for Highway 6, the Highway 6 project, and it was excellent. I met Bill Jablonski in person, which was fun because I'd only met him virtually on this call before, and Sheriff Brown was there, and Leanne Thompson, our fellow commissioner from Clatsop County, was there, bless her heart. And it was outstanding. They had, what ODOT had done is they're gathering information, and they had the room set up in sections of Highway 6, and so with big maps and posters, and they were showing, like, these are the problems that we've identified in these areas of the highway. These are the solutions that have been suggested. They asked us for feedback. What else? What have we missed? Have we missed any other problems? Have we missed any possible solutions? So people were moving around the room, contributing to the conversation, writing down their ideas. It was really great, and it was pretty well attended. And also, it's not too late. So you can attend an ODOT online open house for Highway 6, and that is open through March 2nd. So you got a little time to do it, and I just Googled it, ODOT online open house, and it came right up. You click on the link for ODOT online open houses, and there are a number of them that they're doing throughout the state, and I think Highway 6 was the 4th down the list. So I really encourage everyone in the community to check that out. ODOT online open house, just Google it, it'll come up, and then contribute to the conversation on Highway 6. See if there are any ideas that you've had that you don't see listed there, and there might very well be, because that was happening in the room. People were saying, well, what about this? And their idea was new, so please do participate, because there will be important work done on Highway 6, and we can contribute to the planning of that right now. And also, Bill Jablonski told me while we were visiting in the open house that ODOT is planning to revise the Wilson River Loop turn off of Highway 6, where there have been some accidents. So that was new information to me, and I was really, really glad to hear that. So more to come on that. And with that, I'll end today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate that. I will make my remarks, and then I'm going to circle back, because I do see that some folks have arrived that we missed early on because nobody was ready to be first. So I will keep my remarks somewhat short, and we've heard a lot already from the other two commissioners about NACO, but I will echo that this was my first time as a commissioner going to that conference in Washington, D.C., and it was really, really an exciting opportunity, as everyone has indicated, to hear directly from our federal government leaders as they spoke specifically to counties, specifically to how they are helping us to get what we need. I think that was really powerful. I had the opportunity to attend a couple of different committee meetings while I was there. One of them I'm going to highlight because it was really a wonderful opportunity. It was the Community Economic Development and Workforce Development Subcommittee, which I am now a member. And I had the opportunity to hear from Marion McFadden at HUD. And Marion is, I'm going to read her title because I'll get it wrong, HUD's Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary for Community Planning and Development, which this really is where the funding sits for homeless services at HUD. And so I not only had the opportunity to hear from her, and she highlighted a number of different funding opportunities that would be coming, but I also had the opportunity after the meeting to catch her in the hallway and visit with her about the challenges of using those dollars in a small rural community when you have to look at the mechanisms and the rules that HUD has created to access those funds. So that's the type of opportunity that your commissioners get when we go back to Washington, D.C., is we actually get to talk to the leadership that feels like they're helping us, but we know there are some barriers in the way. So she took my name and phone number, and I'm counting on a call back from her department. If not, I have hers, and I'll give her a call. So the time we spend in Washington, D.C., while it may sound far away and you wonder what exactly that's doing for the county, that's just one example. I have an entire little notebook full of different funding opportunities, different programs that are available at the federal level that I will be following up on to see if any of those are things that we can be using currently in our county and are not yet doing so. So great conference, great opportunity. I think for me, I spent a couple extra days doing some touring around Washington, D.C., because I hadn't been there in 30 years. And I think the highlight for me was the National Archives Museum, and actually going and seeing our Declaration of Independence, our Constitution, and our Bill of Rights. You know, I think there is this faraway feeling about when our government was founded, how it was founded, and it doesn't necessarily feel like it informs us today. And the opportunity to go back and learn more about just things I knew as a kid, but you kind of forget. How did our government actually come to be formed, and what were some of the specific details? So really, if you get a chance to go to DC, I really encourage everyone to do the National Archives Museum and just reground in who we are as a nation, because I think right now the need for us to pull together as one nation and really get back on our feet doing the right things every day, those documents and the sentiment that the folks who founded our country did that with, super important. Moving on to local things, a couple things quickly. The Tillamook Forest Center is preparing to open after being closed for, I think this is 3 years now. It closed initially due to COVID restrictions, and when it was ready to open last year, they were unable to hire staff. They have now been able to hire staff, and they don't have the date yet, but I just want to put it on everybody's radar. There's a soft opening this weekend for a limited group, and then it should be opening to the public very soon. Great interpretive center regarding the Tillamook burn. It's something that, as we are all talking about timber and forestry and what's important in our communities, it talks about both the economic and the environmental aspects. And so I encourage you to keep your eyes open for that. If you haven't been to the Forest Center, make that one of your key visits this spring. There's also great hiking right there, so you can go out the back doors of the Forest Center and access that Wilson River Trail going both directions, and it's a great hiking opportunity, so don't miss that. The other thing I want to highlight really quickly is your Kiwanis Club in Tillamook County has been here for 100 years. That's a pretty significant milestone. And we, because I am a Kiwanian myself, will be having a celebration on March 4th at 4 p.m. at the Tillamook Fairgrounds, free of charge to everyone. Come on out, have some cake with us, celebrate with us, learn a little bit more about what we have done in the last 100 years serving our community. So just going to put that on everybody's calendar because we'd love to see everyone. Okay, with that, I am going to end my remarks, but I'm going to circle back through my list because I do know that a couple people have joined us that were not with us first thing this morning. I think the first one on that was Frank from Tillamook Family Counseling Center. Frank, do you have some updates for us today? Maybe he figured he... Oh, you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have any major updates. I just want to say that Frank Hannah Williams, Director of Tillamook Family Counseling Center. If you have interested in anything that we do here at the agency, appointments, questions, you can reach us at 503-842-8201. And I'll take any questions if anyone has any behavioral health services for Tillamook County residents.
Thank you, Frank.
Sure.
Okay. I think also Randy Thorpe from Emergency Management may have jumped on. Randy, are you with us? We all want to know what's happening with the weather.
Yeah, I'm here.
Is it going to be, do we have an emergency on the horizon? That's what we want to know from our emergency manager.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. I just double checked again and was looking at everything, and the main snow should stay above about 1,000 feet. But they're saying we should be able to get some light snow possibly here, down on the floor, valley floor here. But they're not. They're looking at maybe a trace to an inch or so, and mainly, on those areas that like grasses and beside the road. But there is that possibility that tonight that is going to freeze on those roads. So I would be extremely careful if you're going to be out driving, especially, after dark tonight. The biggest thing that I'm concerned about is that the temperatures Wednesday night are going to get down around 24, 25 degrees, and they're saying Thursday could get as low as into the teens. So that's going to be a major issue for us, I think, if we do get down that cold through the end of this week. So, but again, they're looking at these light snow showers, through the whole week. So I think the best thing there is that the roads are going to be slick, and so I would be extremely careful driving around. They're predicting winds could be as high as 45. I'm hoping we don't get that high, but that's one of their predictions, is that it's going to go as high as 45, but mainly the winds will stay around 10 to 15 miles an hour. So hopefully that will not cause any problems either. So it's a good time to take some time off and stay at home and sit in front of the fire. But traveling out and about, just be extremely careful on those roads. And I will keep monitoring it through it, and of course, check on the Facebook account, because that's where I'm going to be putting most of the updates through the day.
Perfect. Thank you, Randy. Yeah, everybody just be very aware of the changing weather. We aren't really sure what's going to happen. I was reading something online that said, it's just about 2 degrees difference between whether we have rain with a few flakes or whether we have accumulated snow. And of course, forecasting is unfortunately an inexact science. So thank you, Randy. Appreciate that. I understand the sheriff has also joined us. Sheriff, what do you have for us this morning?
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning.
Well, Mary Faith touched on the Highway 6 community input thing that was held last week, and I was able to attend that. I did meet the Clatsop County Commissioner, Leanne, very nice lady. Got a visit with Mary Faith for all of about 30 seconds or a minute or so. We were busy going around and talking to other people, so but as she said, it was good. That was broke up into stations where they had some areas that they had concentrated on. Good conversations, good input from the community. They were taking notes on the community's input or the attendees' input, so that was great. I would like to say that it definitely is a really positive step in the right direction to start working on addressing problem areas or problems on Highway 6. They definitely are taking it serious and working towards the fix and making it a safer and more comfortable road to drive. So that's definitely positive. We had our hiring event last week. It was held on Thursday with interviews on Friday. I would call it a success. We actually were able to fill up a day's worth of interviews between candidates that participated in the hiring event or candidates that were previously ready to be interviewed, so that was good. I have not talked to my command staff yet to find out fully how the interviews went, because I do rely on them to take those steps and complete the interviews, and then we move forward from there. But it was exciting. It was good. We had, like I said, we had good participation in both the post-test as well as the ORPAT, which is the physical fitness portion of it, and we've got some good candidates that have a couple of steps still to finish, and as I said, we filled up a day's worth of interviews. So that was a very positive, very positive event, I guess you can say. So that was good. Here in a few weeks, I'll be attending the Western States Sheriff's Association Conference. Pretty much every county west of the Mississippi has the ability to attend. That's what the WSSA represents, is all the Western State Sheriffs, everybody from Arizona and Texas all the way up to Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, and then obviously Oregon, California, Washington. So it's really fun to meet and visit with sheriffs from other states, see the differences, see the similarities, and understand their their struggles and be able to network and maybe even get some good ideas on resolving issues here at home. So really great event. I didn't make it last year, but I made it 2 years ago. And I do get to go to that again this year, which is going to be a wonderful event, and looking forward to that. I think as far as any further updates, that's about all I have today. I can take questions if need be, but that's what I have.
Thank you, Sheriff. Any questions for the sheriff? All right, I don't hear any.
I don't have a question. I don't have a question, Commissioner, but I do have a fun small world story. Yesterday, I know that the sheriff was in Salem shopping for maybe uniforms for the sheriff's office, and the reason I know that is because he met my sister who works in the place where he was shopping, and she called me later and said, "I'm at the Tillamook County Sheriff." So it's a funny small world.
It is, they say 6 degrees of separation, but I really don't believe that. I think if you live in Tillamook County, you might get 1 or 2 degrees of separation. The world all knows each other. Okay, thank you, Sheriff. Appreciate your time this morning, and I would just urge everyone to support the Sheriff's Department by being smart about driving in our slip conditions, because when we have accidents and those sorts of things, it really puts a lot of stress and pressure on our Sheriff's Department, as well as all local law enforcement and our special fire districts and everyone to respond. And we can really just make everyone safer if we make very smart decisions about driving when we have poor weather. So that's my shout out there.
And actually, Commissioner, I have one more thing to add.
Yes, please.
It actually is perfectly in line with what you just said, and I had heard Randy mention it as well, which is basically just driving safe. The other side of that people want to make sure that they understand is that if the weather is bad and you're driving fast or something happens and you crash, it's important to remember that first responders are going to be responding slowly and safely as well. So a response to your location might actually be delayed. And I think a lot of people, I fail to realize that if the roads are bad, there's going to be a delay in the response as well. So all the more reason to drive safe.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I think that somehow we think first responders are magic, and just because we slid on the ice and ended up off the road, we think that somehow they can just get to us. And the reality is that may or may not be true, and there may be a delay. And, we just don't want anybody to get hurt out there. So thank you, Sheriff. I appreciate that. I think that's a good message to tack on. Okay, let's move on to our cities. It looks like we have Layla Ahmad, City Manager for Manzanita. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, great. Okay, you can hear me.
Yes.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'll be brief, but welcome back, Commissioners. It sounds like a good trip to D.C. Appreciate the updates on that. I wanted to share just a debrief from our last City Council meeting. We had a presentation on the Tri-Cities area, so Manzanita, Wheeler, and Nehalem for our Transportation Systems Plan update. And so that was received really well by our council. And we're going to start moving forward with adopting the TSP as part of our comprehensive plan update. So that was very exciting. We also discussed a number of other items, including some additional work on City Hall, which we held a meeting on February 15th to discuss whether or not we were going to be able to save the Quonset hut. So some of you may know we have a site that we've been trying to build a City Hall on for a number of years that includes an old schoolhouse and a Quonset hut. And we've done a very, very thorough and detailed analysis of that building to see whether or not either of those buildings could be salvaged and repurposed for the use of the City Hall. And it turns out that those buildings are really not set up for either a City Hall or in any position to be rehabilitated to a level 4 building, which is what it would need to be to house our police department. So our council made the decision to move forward with a location for new City Hall that would include demolition of the buildings that are currently on the site. It would be new construction, and we are now proceeding into finishing 30% design of that. And then the next step would be to figure out if we can pay for it. So lots of work yet to do, but that was a significant moment for the city, and so I just want to acknowledge that and acknowledge the team and the council for moving that important work forward. We have the third and final destination management plan meeting on February 28th at 2 p.m. Nan Devlin and her team have done a wonderful job engaging with our community. I saw a draft of some of the ideas that have come out of that, and really excited to see what the final plan looks like. So for folks that are interested in coming and helping to prioritize those projects, please do come to the Pine Grove Community House in Manzanita at 2 p.m. on February 28th. March 8th will mark our last City Council work session and regular session happening on the same day. So we will hold work session and regular session on March 8th, but after that we will move to having our regular council meetings on the first Wednesday after the first Monday of every month, and then our work sessions will be the following Wednesday at 2 p.m. And with that, I will say thank you for your time and have a great week, everyone.
All right, thank you so much, Layla. I appreciate the update. Okay, Rockaway Beach, Charles McNeely.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can. Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you. So just a couple of things this morning. Rockaway Beach is accepting applications for our open council seat through midday March 1st, so we're looking forward to getting on with that process and filling the empty seat. Second, the council approved hiring destination management advisors to help us put together our initial planning for the Salmonberry Trail for our section of it, and so we're very excited about upcoming resident outreach and planning for that. We think the Salmonberry Trail is going to be a huge boon to Rockaway Beach. Third, a resident and mountain biking enthusiast shared with our planning commission his vision of a series of mountain bike trails in the hills adjacent to our eastern border. His ideas were enthusiastically received and would, when implemented, attract a whole new segment of tourists to our community. And I've been told, I don't mountain bike, but I've been told that at the low end, a mountain bike costs about $2,000 and upwards. So this is a segment of people who would bring money into our community and give us a chance to extract some of that cash from their wallets, which would be good for our businesses and our residents. Fourth, I'll just say I'm going to be on vacation next week, so we'll miss this call on February 28th, but we'll be thinking of all of you from my vacation destination. And with that, back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to hear that you all are working on that segment of the Salmonberry Trail. As I think you know, I am on the STIA board and the STF board, both of which are the government and nonprofit agencies supporting that work. So I am super excited to hear that you all are focusing on that. The Salmonberry has an opportunity to really increase the type of visitors that we want, those who would like to walk and enjoy the nature of our communities. Also excited about the mountain bike trails. I think that's another great, a tourist population that we'd like to draw. So that's exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I did not see a phone number for Mayor Tim Hall from Garibaldi, but I'm going to pause for just a second. Sometimes people fool me with a different number. Okay, not hearing anything there. We'll move on to Bay City. Mayor David McCall.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners, and
Good
everybody
morning.
listening on the radio. So I'd like to report last week at our City Council meeting, we had a very long agenda, but some of that lengthy agenda is going through the mechanics of, when we apply for grants, we don't have the grant money in our budget, so we have to go through several steps of legalese things to actually bring that money in and spend it. But in addition to that, we had a couple of items on the agenda that are very significant in the workforce housing development field. And so I want to report we had a first reading of an ordinance to implement a property tax exemption for multi-unit rental housing. This is almost mirroring the county's ordinance that was recently updated, so we had our first hearing on that. We also had a presentation on Senate Bill 406, and the council expressed their support for the construction of that bill moving forward. One of the highlights of the meeting, at least in my mind, was that the council unanimously adopted a proclamation recognizing the respect for and the dedication of our city public works and the PUD crews who go out there storm after storm in nasty weather and bad conditions and restore services so that we can get back to our lives as we consider normal. So we'd really like to acknowledge our respect for those individuals. And last, I'd like to go through a list of nominations for various things we are accepting now. First, we are accepting nominations for the John Getman Community Service Award. This is for a volunteer who has contributed significantly to the city of Bay City during the past year. And like I said, we're accepting nominations for that. More information at City Hall. We also have vacancies that we're accepting applications for. One position on City Council, one position on our Budget Committee, and 2 positions on our Planning Commission. So if you're interested in giving back to your community or know someone who has given a lot back to the community, please reach out to City Hall, and there are multiple opportunities available. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that update. I'm very excited about the property tax abatement. We have one building that's currently using that in an incorporated county, and another that we expect to have an application from soon. And I look forward to that being another developer incentive in the community that will work in Bay City. So thank you for that. Okay, moving on. Tillamook City Manager Nathan George.
Good morning, Commissioner. Can you hear me okay?
Good morning, we can.
Good. Welcome back from the east side of the country. I have several things here, and I'm just going to combine last week's and this week's together and sort of just give an overview of what's going on. So in our police department, our school resource officer Olson received his intermediate and advanced police certification. Sergeant Corey Hollis received his supervisory certificate. Officer Neubauer has completed his field training program, and now he's in solo status. We're excited to put him in rotation. In fact, I saw him yesterday patrolling our city. Sergeant Harold and Executive Assistant Larson met with the representatives of the Manzanita Police Department and the Tillamook County Sheriff's Office as they work on going paperless and submitting reports and videos to the District Attorney's Office through axonevidence.com. axonevidence.com. We appreciate the interagency partnerships in working with us. The Tillamook Police Department successfully completed this transition last year, so that our police department went paperless with the DA's office, and we're really happy the rest of the county is working on that as well. Very exciting. Chief Rao and Lieutenant Trox were honored to be able to speak for a half an hour and answer questions on KTIL-FM and provided updates on our progress on important issues such as homelessness, crime prevention, community better. And the police department has a recruit open for a police officer through the National Testing Network for entry level. And for someone who's a lateral, they only need to fill out the application. We ask you to please visit our Human Resources Director, Ms. Jamie Christensen. You can call her or email her or go to our website or even drop by our City Hall for any questions or get an application. In the Public Works Department, the Public Works Department crews have been out sweeping the streets. Crews have also addressed several potholes throughout the town. And we ask once again, if anybody sees any potholes, you can always call us. Call our main number. And there's a prompt to go to the Public Works Department, and when we do have someone answering the phone. I know in the past, previously a year and before that, we didn't have anybody answering. We now have an executive assistant who answers, and we will follow up on voicemails. Also, you can always email publicworks@tillamookor.gov. And once again, if you see a following problem, just email that email address. You can always call City Hall to find out the email address too. The Water Division prepared for the installation of a new meter at the apartments being built at 4th Street and Ocean Avenue, which is, I believe it's the Willett Apartments. I apologize if I said that wrong. It's been rebranded. It used to be Ocean Estaka. The lift station at Meadow Avenue failed again, and we're still in emergency bypass mode. Also this week, a sinkhole on Walnut Avenue will be addressed later this week. Water and street crews will be installing a new meter at, as we talked about, at 4th Street and Ocean. We are anticipating getting some more cold patch for filling potholes this week. However, we get the material from a company based out of Portland, so being able to get it in this week will be tentative depending on the roads and the conditions, especially Highway 6, of course, as that's the main route here from Portland. Public Works crews will be completing several annual Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or otherwise known as OSHA, training required this week. In our wastewater treatment plant and water treatment plant, the crews will be performing basic operations and maintenance this week. And also, the regular council meeting is tonight, February 21st at City Hall at 7 p.m. We hope anyone who wants to attend will do so either in person or via the online meeting link that's found on the city's website. That's all I had this morning. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Nathan. Appreciate the update. Okay, moving on. South County, Doug Olson. Doug, what do you have for us today?
Oh, good morning, Commissioner. Just a couple of things. I appreciated the remarks about your trips back to Washington, D.C. I've been there a number of times, and you're quite right. It's really quite inspiring. I remember at one meeting there was a congressman, and I don't remember who it was, but he said that when you walk down the Capitol steps in the afternoon, late afternoon, and the sun is on the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial and the Capitol, he says if you don't get a lump in your throat, you don't belong in Washington, D.C. And I always remembered that, and I think that's very, very true. So welcome home. A couple of other things. We have our, put on my PUD director hat for a moment, we have our statewide meetings this week, couple of days over in Salem. And we're doing, like was mentioned earlier, playing a lot of defense because the legislature has a habit of looking for money anywhere there is money. And they look usually at utilities like Tillamook PUD and say, what could we add onto the bill and do something with? So we play a lot of defense there. And then finally, just a couple of updates on things that are happening or maybe not happening here in South County. This year, our Chamber of Commerce will not support and pay for fireworks, so it looks like we won't have any fireworks on the 4th of July, and that's a disappointment to some people, but then when you look at the reality of it, we spent nearly $18,000 this past year for a 35-minute show, and while it was quite nice, and a lot of people enjoyed it, you can do a lot of things with that kind of money rather than have 35-minute fireworks show. So that will not be happening this year, at least sponsored by the Chamber. And then second of all, a long-time event that came to South County, Reach the Beach, sponsored by the American Lung Association of Oregon, excuse me, has been coming to Pacific City for maybe 12 to 15 years. It would start in Portland and a couple of other locations, and about 3,000 bike riders would come this way and finish right at Cape Kiwanda. They've moved that event now to finish in Astoria. So one more change in the landscape, and good for them, and I don't know all the reasons why they did that, but there'll be 5,000 fewer people the third weekend in May in Pacific City than there has been for the past number of years. So for some people that's a good thing, others maybe not so much. But any event, those are the changes that have happened so far for this upcoming summer. So with that, Commissioners, thank you very much. And it's kind of an ugly day here in South Tillamook County, probably across the county, but spring is coming. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug. I'm going to take a moment, since we were a little out of order today, to just ask if there was anyone that I missed. Okay, not seeing anyone or hearing anyone unmute. So I'm going to go ahead and say thank you to KTIL for broadcasting and everyone for attending, and we will adjourn this meeting at 8:54. Thank you all.